This episode contains spoilers. Please listen responsibly. Hello everyone, my name is Jason Ramirez and welcome to Season 2, Episode 4 of the Hit List Podcast, a podcast where me and a guest cross off films from our watch list by watching them. I'm joined today by film critic Zackiel Marsh. Welcome Zackiel, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, before we get started, can you tell me a little bit about your streaming viewing habits? Whenever you sit down to watch a movie, do you choose something new or do you stick to your favorites?
Yeah, I always try to choose something new. I feel like every week there's something that comes out that catches my eye, or there's something I completely missed in the theaters that I'm like, oh, now it's finally on Netflix or Hulu or something. So I'll try to watch it there. It's rare that I rewatch things, but it does happen occasionally.
I'm kind of the opposite. I rewatch a lot.
Oh.
But I'm trying to get away from that. That's why I started this podcast, by the way, because I wanted to watch stuff that's on my list that I've just been staying there unwatched. So that's why it's a podcast where we cross off films we haven't watched before. Little fun fact for the new viewers, new listeners. There we go, new listeners. So today, the two films we discussing are Citizen Kane, directed by Orson Welles, and Alien, directed by Ridley Scott. Two very classic films. Citizen Kane is a 1941 American drama film directed by Orson Welles, who also served as his producer and co-screenwriter, and starred in it as well. It was his first feature film and considered by many critics, filmmakers, and fans to be the greatest film ever made. It's a quasi-biographical film that examines the life and legacy of Charles Foster Kane, who is a composite character based in part upon American media barons such as William Randolph Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer, and Samuel Insull and Harold McCormick, as well as aspects of the screenwriter's own lives. So, Citizen Kane was on Zackiel's list. Zackiel, can you tell us a little bit why this film was on your list?
Yeah, I remember when I was 11 or 12. I've always loved movies, but I wanted to know more about them, so I went on Google. I was like, greatest movies of all time. And I Google searched that, and then you find the American Film Institute had made their top 100 list in I think 2007 and 1997, and Citizen Kane was number one both times. A bunch of other critics list Citizen Kane has been number one. It's very if you say Citizen Kane is the best movie of all time, that's a pretty standard opinion amongst film critic circles. And despite watching a bunch of classics over the years, I still never watched Citizen Kane. It was just one of those ones that I never got around to. It was either never streaming or I was just not in the mood to watch a 2-hour black and white drama from the 1940s.
Right.
But finally I was like, today is the day. And after 10 years of wanting to watch it, I finally got it off the list.
Yeah, I definitely understand that statement. I've done the same thing, but mostly for Wikipedia. It always this film made it to the top 10, whatever. And like you said, it's always the American Film Institute because, they always had those things. And yeah, Citizen Kane was on it. And I think I remember I was in high school or whatever. My professor, I think my history professor told me that Vertigo beat it for 1 year for another thing.
For the Sight and Sound, Vertigo won in 2012.
Yeah, there we go. So I was interested in learning more about Citizen Kane, but like you said, it's a black and white film made in 1940s, and the thing is I used to be very prejudiced against older films because it's older, we have more technology now, we have the technology. But I will say I had to watch it for my film class last year before COVID whole thing broke down, and I didn't pay as much attention to it because I was I would always write stuff in the middle of film class. But from what I did watch, I liked it very much. So that's why I wanted to watch it again when you said it was on your list. But your initial reactions, what were your initial reactions after viewing this film?
Yeah, my initial reactions to the film that is currently said to be the greatest of all time, it's good. It is. I like it. I think it's a good movie. I think it's a really good movie in a lot of aspects. I don't love it. It's not in my top 100 by any means. It kind of leaves me cold in a lot of ways. I didn't emotionally resonate with the story. That may just be because my expectations were so high going in, and I tried to temper them, be okay, don't go in with too high expectations. But I don't know. I did not love it by any stretch of the imagination, but I cannot deny the things it does well. It does incredibly well. And from a technical aspect, like for like the cinematography, the editing, the music, it's beautiful. Like it truly is a masterpiece when it comes to all those aspects of filmmaking.
Yeah, so basically everything you just said about that regarding like a classic movie is how I felt about Casablanca, essentially. Like I had such high expectations for it. And then when I saw it, I just felt like it was so cliched. And then, because it was another required viewing for my film class, and my film professor told me like the reason why it's so cliched is because people copy this movie to the point where like it's considered cliched now. Yeah, I had to say I actually love Citizen Kane. It's like one of my favorite movies. Like I even like it like second time viewing. I love it even more. I also want to like go into like more detail about the movie. So the reason why Orson Welles was able to direct this movie is because of his success at his Mercury Theater and the controversial 1938 radio broadcast of The War of the Worlds, which people believed were aliens were attacking the Earth because of the whole radio thing. Which I thought was stupid when I first learned that. I was like, I believe I was 10 when I first learned that fact because I read in the textbook about like the impacts of radio. I'm like, how stupid can people be? And as an adult, I'm like, very stupid apparently. So after that whole thing, he signed a contract with RKO Pictures in 1939. And this was very unusual for like a first-time director. He was given the freedom to develop his own story and to use his own cast and crew and to have final cut privilege. And following 2 attempts to get a project off the ground, he wrote the screenplay for Citizen Kane with also collaborative efforts with Herman J. Mankiewicz. And he was 25 when that movie came out. I always like hate like learning those facts because I'm like, man, I'm 24. What am I doing right now? It's always like, I mean, there's that book by Robert Rodriguez, like, I forgot the name of it, Rebel Without a Crew, and how a 23-year-old made like a hit film, like with only $3,000. I'm like, man, what did I do? I'm like, wait, I was in a pandemic. That's what happened.
Can't hold it against you at this point, you know?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. So like, it's just really hard to like hear those facts and compare myself. And like, wait, I gotta stop doing that. You know? But yeah, what do you think about hearing this? Like, hearing this was his first film.
I think Citizen Kane would not work if it was not Orson Welles' first of all, if it was not an Orson Welles film, and second of all, if it was not his first film. Because a big part of what went into it is that this guy had no idea what he was doing. So he was just like, hey, can we like shoot the camera this way? And then people would be like, well, no one's ever done it that way. Like, that's not at all the usual way we do things. And he's like, let's try it. And it ends up becoming one of the most like beautiful to look at movies I've ever seen. Like, this is also the first movie I believe to do deep focus, which is like basically where everything on this frame is completely in focus. And yeah, Orson Welles would not have tried that if he had done movies in the past, if he had known like the cinematic language. So it's pretty crazy that sometimes you just need a unique mind to come in and like throw away convention. Yeah,
so the thing is like people think that he like was learned filmmaking before he actually made the film, but he said before like plenty of interviews, I was completely ignorant of how to make a film until I had to make this movie. But the thing is like this guy named David Wardwell, he's an American film critic and I believe film theorist and film historian. He said the best way to understand Citizen Kane is to stop worshiping it as a triumphant technique, because he argues that the film did not invent other famous techniques, such as like deep focus cinematography and shots of the ceiling, all that stuff. And he asserts that he just put them all together for the first time and perfected the medium in one single film. And in a 1948 interview, D.W. Griffith said, I love Citizen Kane and particularly love the ideas he took from me.
So I've been making like a very conscious effort to watch more old films recently, and I watched a lot of films from like the 20s and the 30s, And it's always funny because people do say, "Oh, Citizen Kane invented like cinematography in this way," and I'm like, I don't know. Sunrise from 1927 looks pretty good too. Like, M from 1931 looks pretty awesome. All of these movies have like used a lot of the similar language. Citizen Kane does it with so much style, though.
That was my own impression as well. Like, I thought he like invented this. Like, no, he just did it all in one piece. Like, kind of like a, how do you say, collage of like techniques. That's kind of more common nowadays because we have a whole, like, how do you say, a library of films to draw from to like make our own stuff. So another thing I want to talk about for Citizen Kane, it was selected by the Library of Congress as an inductee to the 1989 inaugural group of 25 films for preservation and the United States National Film Registry for being, quote, culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant, end quote. But I will say that the reason the National Film Registry was made because there was like a colorization controversy. So Ted Turner, he wanted to colorize the film and people were like very much against it. And the whole thing culminated when I believe Welles's estate said like he had a specific thing in the contract that said to not colorize the film. And that whole controversy was a factor in the passage of the National Film Preservation Act in 1988, which created the National Film Registry the following year, of which the film is in the inaugural group right there. And it shares the registry with Shrek now.
Yes. Well, Shrek is very culturally significant, obviously.
Very.
Yes.
Very.
But yeah, it's definitely a good pick for that. It's an iconic movie.
So I want to ask you two things. What were some of your favorite scenes? And what did you think about that bird shriek?
Oh, the bird shriek, I jumped. I was like, why? What? That's so unnecessary. It completely caught me off guard. Good for them, I guess.
Do you want to know why it's there?
It's to I believe I read somewhere it's to wake you up.
Yep.
Right? And I was like, thanks, I guess. Like it happened. I was like, "What? Why?" I was awake. If anything, I needed this bird shriek like 30 minutes ago.
Right. It's very sudden, and yeah, that's what I learned as well. Like when I heard it, I was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" My professor told me because he screened it in class, so like it was very loud for everyone, right? And that's when he learned that like he thought that like people would be asleep by then because it was a long movie. So he just did it to like wake them up for like the last few minutes of the movie. I'm like, Wells, why would you do this? Why would you do this to us now?
It's like, imagine watching that in like IMAX or something with the Dolby, man. Like, So that bird shriek definitely caught me off guard. Favorite scenes, I really love the breakfast scene with Kane and his first wife, just because two reasons. It shows the dissolution of their marriage in only like a couple minutes, and it does it with so much style and like pizzazz. Like there's so many ways they could have done it, and Welles was like, yeah, but we could do it this way. And also it's just like a masterpiece when it comes to like editing and like makeup and hairstyling. Like it's just so quick, and like you can see each breakfast, their relationship gets progressively worse. And you also see them age, like, every single year. To the end, right, where, like, I buy Orson Welles being, like, 40-something by the end, even though he was only 25 when he filmed this. Like, great makeup. Robert Wise was the editor on this movie, and he would go on to become the director of, like, West Side Story and The Haunting. I want to say The Sound of Music. I'm not positive on that one. But yeah, like, it's super cool to see, like, this iconic director in his own right basically did some of the best editing for a film in that time period. So I love the breakfast scene a lot. Also a big fan of that one shot when after he destroys it's near the end, after he destroys his room, he walks out into his hallway, and he walks into the Hall of Mirrors, and you basically see... Because the whole point of the movie is that, like, Kane is not just one person's perception of the man. Kane is all these men and none of these men simultaneously. And the best way to show that is to literally show a bunch of mirrors, and you see, like, dozens of, well, like at least a dozen Kanes like walking through the hallway, and it's just such a awesome scene, very thematically rich, comes at like the emotional climax. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's also one of my favorite scenes, the whole mirror thing. I just have a huge fascination with mirrors, I guess, because there's that scene in Us, and there's also like plenty of like scenes like cop thrillers where like I guess like the cop runs into a hall of mirrors to catch a criminal and they can't find him. It happens a lot. I love mirror scenes, but that was a really good one. Really good analysis. I didn't catch that bit. I see it now. That makes sense. And as far as like the storytelling technique, the movie rejects the traditional linear and chronological device that most movies up to that point had been doing. So it didn't go from like beginning, middle, and end. It's mostly told through flashbacks and through the perspective of other people. Mm-hmm. And like a lot of stories overlap as well. So like whenever one person ends their recollection of Citizen Kane, another person picks it up where they left off and from their perspective. One of my favorite like flashback scenes is with Jebediah. He wrote that very harsh review of Susan, and he said, I forgot exactly what he said, but basically like if there was a low before, there's a new low now. I'm like, bruh, that's like very harsh. And I thought he was gonna like fire him immediately and not let write the review. But he finished it and left the same review, and he fired Jebediah. And I was like, bruh, what? And then you find out in the next flashback with Susan's flashback, she was very mad about that, but she didn't know that he finished that review.
Yep.
And I was like, this man thought he had some sense of honor, but really he hurt people in the end. He's like the 1941 version of Ted Cruz.
I guess so. The only difference is Ted Cruz doesn't have any honor, I guess.
He thinks he does, but he doesn't.
That's true.
But yeah, that's like the storytelling technique, as I said. Like basically it's the cinematic equivalent of the unreliable narrative and narrator in literature. Because like you said, different people had different perspectives about him.
It's also great because like since we see these people's perspectives, our opinion of Kane is constantly changing. So like when we see from his like stepfather, because he was sold to the bank, that's the only part of the movie I'm a little unclear on.
Right, same here, because I didn't catch that at first, and now second view I'm like, whoa, did they just give his custody over to a bank?
It's like this kid is raised by money, literally. Yeah, like, so when you see from his, like, stepfather's point of view, he's this young ideologue, and he's just like, oh, power to the people, yeah. And then, like, you see from his business manager's side, who I don't understand how that business manager outlived Kane, because he looked like 60 when we met him, and he somehow is older than, somehow outlived a 20-year-old. But anyway, he sees, like, the enterpriser and like the smart businessman at the heart of it all. But then by the end, when you see the butler and you see the wife, like the second wife, she sees like the misery and like the viciousness behind him, but also the charm. The butler sees this broken man. Only Jebediah really sees him in its true form, and that's obviously the section of the movie that is the most, how should I say, like emotionally complex, I'd say. Because even you don't really know how to feel about Kane at that point. Yeah,
definitely. Because he had the most to say about him. He was like the most critical about him. Because Kane would say it's all about the working man. And then Jebediah is like, well, when the working man has their own opinion, they're going to see it as their rights. And that's something that you can give them. Mm-hmm. And I was like, but yeah, pretty much. That scene with Jebediah and Kane, I want to talk about that scene as well. Because it was a low angle scene. It was like after his loss to become the governor. A non-orthodox method that they used for the movie was the low-angle shots, and also the fact that like all the sets had ceilings, which is kind of uncommon even to this day because the ceiling is used for lights. But he wanted it to have like a ceiling, I guess, so that they can like make it feel like they had a ceiling. It also worked for the low-angle shots, as you saw. And for that extreme low angle, as you can see, they literally had to drill into the floor for it. Like, and it was like concrete floor as well, so it was really hard. You can look on Wikipedia like the way it looked like. They drilled it into the floor. The cameraman is right there, and he's holding this huge camera as they're like moving across the floor. So that's another method that they use, and I might use that for my own movies soon.
Do it. It looks great. Everything. If I've noticed anything in this movie is that there's so many scenes that could have been shot differently that Wells used a very, even if not necessarily innovative, stylish way of doing it. Like,
Right.
you could have just shot that as like a back and forth talk. But no,
Exactly.
he like shoots him in very, very low angles so that we are looking up to him at that moment. Or like the scene where Susan tries to commit suicide. That's definitely a scene that many people would have done like very like numerous takes on, or like
Right.
numerous cuts. He does it in one unbroken shot, all in the background. So like the foreground is the pill bottle, and that's like, you know what's happened, and then we just get to see like the struggle and the emotional fallout from it kind of in the background. And that's such a cool way of doing that scene.
Yeah, that was a great scene as well. Very powerful scene as right there. And as far as like the reception for this movie, so this is kind of the legacy of Citizen Kane. So the character of of Charles Foster Kane, as I said before, he's a composite character, and he's partly based off like William Randolph Hearst, who was an American businessman and a newspaper publisher. And hearing about this movie enraged him so much that he banned any advertising, reviewing, or mentioning of it in his papers, and had his journalist libel Wells. It got really out of hand, like how much he hated him for that movie. And despite his attempts to like destroy the film, since its release, like every reference to his life and career had a reference to Citizen Kane.
I think that's another reason the movie's so powerful. It's because you have to put it in its like historical context. This at this age, yellow journalism was huge. This was just after the Great Depression. People like William Randolph Hearst, Joseph Pulitzer, like all of these big media moguls, pretty much, was so powerful and like had so much influence over the American public. And to make a movie pretty much attacking them, and to basically say these are just sad, lonely men at the end of the day, like, people wanted to see that. I think the only film, like, I guess the modern day equivalent, and it's not a perfect comparison by any means, is something like The Social Network.
Yep.
Where you look at these tech billionaires and you look at just the humanity and lack of empathy at the end of them. And it also plays destruction. It also has great cinematography and editing and all that. But that's the closest thing I can imagine to like a modern day equivalent.
Yeah, I actually just told my friend, like, if you like The Social Network, I think you'll like Citizen Kane, because like they're kind of like parallels to it, like how like they succeeded and how they're like kind of receptive towards the other people around them.
That's so funny because I think The Social Network is in like my personal top 10. I think The Social Network is like a pretty perfect movie in almost every sense. And this isn't Kane. I'm like, yeah, this is good. I like it.
But yeah, so that reception with William Randolph Hearst, who hated it so much, he tried to destroy it. But like now, he kind of like it kind of like, what's the effect called? The
Streisand effect.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. The more you try to suppress something or try to hide something, the more people are gonna find out. The more likely people are gonna find out about it. Yeah, unfortunately for Hearst, is that it's part of his legacy now, because he did his best to suppress it.
He did succeed in the short term. Citizen Kane was nowhere near the financial success people expected it to be. And it actually got booed at the Oscars that it premiered at. Like every single time. He got like 11 nominations. And it got booed every single time during the ceremony. But it still won Best Writing, I'd like to point out. So people loved it, but people were like, oh, I shouldn't love it. It's like chocolate, you know?
Yeah, that's crazy. And another final thing I want to talk about this movie is the writing credit. So it's a very long-standing controversy as to who has the credit to this film, to the screenplay. So Wells conceived the project, and with Herman J. Mankiewicz. I hope I'm saying it right. I'm not sure, because he used to write the radio plays for Wells's radio series back at CBS. And Mankiewicz, he based the original outline. This is crazy. He based the original outline on the life of William Randolph Hearst. He actually based it on him because he knew him socially, and he came to hate him because he became exiled from his circle. Can you believe that?
All I know is many great deeds in life have been accomplished due to pettiness. So I totally believe that.
It's so petty and it's so out of spite. And yeah, it's kind of funny. But the thing is, like, there was more controversy over it because the terms of the contract stated that Mankiewicz was to receive no credit for his work because he was hired as a script doctor. And they kind of resolved it later on where they gave him credit eventually in the film. And then the film was eventually said screenplay by Herman Mankiewicz and Orson Welles. But Herman, he kind of resented Orson Welles after that.
Yeah.
Over the next 12 years. The Netflix film Mank, which came out in December 2020, is based on this whole thing. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm really excited to see it soon.
Me neither. I decided I should not watch it until I watch Citizen Kane. And now that I've watched Citizen Kane, I can watch Mank. So I pretty much got 2 movies off my watch list because of this one. So it was a twofer for me.
Yeah, I heard from other people that, like, it's better if you've seen Citizen Kane, you know the history behind it. So now you know the history behind it as well. Quick question before we go on to our ad break. Do you think you should have seen this movie sooner?
Yeah, I definitely should have seen this sooner. I probably would like it more if I had seen it sooner. Like when I was more impressionable, and like my taste were less refined and less specific. This would have totally set me down. I would have watched if I'd seen this sooner. I would have watched 1,000 old movies sooner than I ended up watching them. I think because Definitely. It is really good and it's a very modern story. It works very well. At this point in my film watching career, it's like, it's almost impossible to live up to the hype it's generated, but it's still a very good movie, and I wish I had seen it.
Yeah, definitely. Same here. Actually, probably not for me, because I wasn't into these type of movies when I was younger. More so now. But after watching this movie, it did compel me to watch more Orson Welles movies. And actually, the first episode of this series, we watched The Stranger, which starred and directed by Orson Welles.
Oh, wow.
And it's a very slow burn. It's not like Citizen Kane. I will have to say that if you're going to put that on your list.
Oh, my watch list is thousands of movies long at this point. It's like, if someone's like, hey, you should watch this, I'm like, okay. It goes on the watch list.
And now a word from our sponsors. Warning. The following segment contains commentary of sexual violence in the movie Alien. Listener discretion is advised. Now back to the show.
So now we're going to talk about Alien. So Alien is a 1979 science fiction horror film directed by Ridley Scott and written by Dan O'Bannon. Based on a story by O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett, it follows the crew of the commercial space tug Nostromo, who encounters the eponymous alien, an aggressive and deadly extraterrestrial set loose on the ship. The film stars Tom Skerritt, Sigourney Weaver, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, John Hurt, Ian Holm, and Yaphet Kotto. This film was on Jason's list. Jason, why was it on your list?
Yeah, so this film the Alien in general is a huge franchise, right? And it's referenced a lot of places. Well, the top thing I can think of right now is when Abe dresses up as the alien for one of the episodes in Community. I think you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I love Community.
Yeah, that zombie episode is the very first episode of Community I watched, and that kind of compelled me to watch the whole show, and I'm very glad I made that decision.
Lucky.
And I've been... Thank you. I feel very lucky watching it. And I've been told it's a great study in suspense, and I want to see the movie that inspired a lot of directors and filmmakers. And the only experience I have with this movie is when I saw Prometheus a while ago, when it came out, I guess. But I didn't watch it in theaters. I watched it a DVR version. Mm-hmm. And I just skipped through a lot. I'll just fast forward a lot for it. I'm it's okay. It's interesting. But I wasn't really into it. That makes sense. And I just knew it was a prequel to Alien.
Yeah, here's what I'll say about the Alien franchise. Alien is one of my personal favorite films of all time. I think it's fantastic. So much style, so much suspense, so much tension. Really interesting analyses and readings of Alien, which we'll get into later. And then Aliens, the direct sequel, is fantastic. It's one of the best action movies I've ever seen. It might be my favorite just straight action movie. It's really, really good. Directed by James Cameron. You should definitely put that on your watch list. Aliens is, me and my dad fight all the time, because I say Alien is better than Aliens, and he says Aliens is better than Alien. Both are fantastic. Both are truly like masterpieces of what they attempt to do.
Gotcha.
And the other ones, you can just leave for all I care. Because you don't need anything past the main duo. But the main duo is legitimately top tier.
That makes sense. Okay. The only thing I know about Aliens is that when they were like pitching the sequel, they wrote Alien and then wrote the S as a dollar sign. That's the only thing I know.
Aliens is so good. Honestly, that should be your next episode because it is on another level. It's a completely different tone than this one. This one is a horror film first and foremost.
Right.
Aliens is an action movie. It has a bunch of cool space marines and they kill stuff and it's awesome.
Makes sense. All right, I'll definitely put it on my list then. But can you tell me a little bit more, like, you say it's one of your favorite films. Can you tell me a little bit more why it's your favorite? You said it was, like, about the atmosphere?
Yeah. Alien is one of my favorite films because it is a film that is just dripping in pure atmosphere. There's so much... You feel like you're on the Nostromo when you're watching this movie. I love the cast. Sigourney Weaver in particular gives, like, a fantastic performance as, like, the final girl here. There's so many ways you can read Alien. Like, I definitely read it a lot about, like, it's a very feminist movie in a lot of ways. It's a movie about capitalism in a lot of ways. It's a movie about, like, isolation and, like, tension. And then it just, like, really does have these huge, awesome set pieces to, like, it's not all just tension. Like, when the tension breaks and you actually get action, those are fantastic. The chestburster scene is stunning. It's one of, like, the best scenes, like, in horror movie history. Dallas in the air vents is a scene not a lot of people talk about.
Definitely.
Because you really don't know where it's going to come or how that's going to go down. Especially because, like, Dallas was, like, kind of built up to be the lead. At least at that point in the film, and then it's over. He's done for. And then you're like, oh, what's gonna happen now? It, like, the set design is beautiful. It really feels lived in. A lot of sci-fi, especially nowadays, is, like, too clean, too, like, nice looking. It's all very chrome and shiny. No, like, it makes sense that shit would look bad. So, like the Nostromo looks like a dirty cargo ship, because that's what the Nostromo is. Just so good. Just so good on, like, every level.
Yeah, I like what you said. It's kind of, like, built like an oil rigger, because it's kind of exactly what it is. They're bringing, like, what, minerals back home?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it makes sense to, like, not... If they had, like, sleek designs for, like, from that company, it will make sense that they wouldn't do it for that ship in particular, because that's not what it's designed for.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to tell you, my initial reception to it. Let me see. Kind of like how you said it's your favorite movie. I thought it was alright. I liked it, but I can see, like you said before with Citizen Kane, I can see, like, the impact it's had, like, how it's very well made. As far as, like, the models for, like, the ships, I know they're models, but, like, they also look kind of very realistic, if that makes sense, when they do the shots as well. And it just reminds me of Starship Troopers, because they did kind of like the same thing with Starship Troopers, like, but they also added in computer graphics to make the ships more realistic for the exterior shots of that.
So, what were your favorite parts of it?
I will say the air vents was my favorite part of the movie. People will talk about the Jess Purster scene. It's iconic. Yeah, it's a very iconic scene. I knew it was coming, but I was still, like, shocked when I saw it. But for me, my favorite part was when Dallas was in the air vents and the tension is building up, and then the jump scare paid off. There's so many movies where there's so many jump scares, but it doesn't make sense because, like, it's just out of nowhere. But they did it well because they built that suspense up for, like, the minutes that he's in there, show that he was in actual danger, and kill him immediately. Like, and that scene where, like, the alien's just like, bah! Like, it just scares him, like, oh, kills him, is like, oh, shit, I didn't see that coming. None of us saw it coming. And it's because he's going in that direction. But, yeah, I was like, whoa, I'd never seen that part before. Like, chestburster scenes always reference, but never the air vents.
Never the air vents. Brett's death scene where the alien is hanging from the rafters while he walks through the doorway. Like, there's so many great scenes in Alien no one talks about. Like, the ending when Ripley is in the shuttle pod, like the escape pod and she thinks, oh, I'm safe. And then she opens like something and then you see the alien has snuck on to the pod with her. And like, you're like, oh shit. Like,
I think that part I'm familiar with because American Dad did something similar. They parodied that part, even to the point where like Stan takes off his clothes and he has like a little thong on as well. Is exactly how Ripley has it on. But yeah, that part I was like, holy shit, he's right there. Like you don't see it until you see it. It's like those like pictures you see online, like, can you see the leopard? I'm like, I'm gonna die because I don't see it. But yeah, that was a very interesting scene. And just before we start like getting into this part, you said the face hugger was made out of sheep intestine. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So the shape hugger was made out of sheep intestine, and it's and they actually threw more sheep intestine. It was shot out of its egg using like high pressure air hoses, right? And then like when they like were like editing it, like they reversed the shot and then slowed it down. So when you finally see the face hugger for the first time and Kane looks in the egg, it's just like like when they filmed it, it was like it like is like removed from his face, and then they show it back on. All the designs in this were designed by H.R. Geiger. So if you know who that is, basically he is a guy who he drew designs for a Grimoire for something called the Necromonicon. And the Necromonicon is this, like, ancient book of, like, evilness from, like, Lovecraftian works. And a Grimoire is I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but a Grimoire is, like, it's kind of like... Grimoire.
Yeah.
It's kind of like to my knowledge, it's like a fan fiction of Lovecraft works. Like, it takes, like, the basis of Lovecraft and then either expands upon it or like makes a new monster from it or like is some sort of encyclopedia on it. So he basically just drew some of the most disgusting looking creatures he could think of, and like he just in like this book. And then the writer Dan O'Bannon was like, yeah, like let's get this guy to make all of our aliens. And it's so great because each of the different stages of the alien has a completely different look and a completely different feel. The egg to the face hugger to the chest buster to the xenomorph, which is like a big scale alien at the very, very end.
Yeah, I think I learned this from another podcast that the reason it kind of looks so menacing because Geiger purposely didn't give it eyes so that it'll look even more menacing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know like what the whole psychological aspect of that is, but yeah, it had no eyes. I couldn't relate to it, man. Like, how can I relate to an alien who doesn't have eyes, man?
You know, it's like I really didn't care about the alien's character development throughout this film. That is the one complaint I have.
All right, what's some other facts that you have for us?
So it's a very common myth that they filmed like the chestbuster scene in one take, and that's actually not the case. They filmed it in 2 takes. But the first take, the chestbuster did not make it through the body.
What?
So, what ends up happening is because it didn't make it through, the whole crew was on edge because they're like, they did not know what was going to come out of it. So when the second take, when it finally did come out, they had a very visceral reaction to it.
Okay, because I might have confused that because I felt like it was totally improv. They didn't know what was going to happen, the chestburster scene. And I like, logistically, I'm thinking like, how do you not know something's gonna like burst out of the chest? Like they set it up so you know it's gonna happen, but that makes more sense. They didn't know what it looked like, you know?
Yes, they didn't know what the chestbuster would look like, and then when it shows up, they're like, "Well, that is not what I was expecting." Some of the reason the alien bleeds acid, is because when they were writing it, Dan O'Bannon could not figure out a way. Why didn't they just shoot it? Because if they just shot it, it's like, we got him. It's like, but it bleeds acid, and it's gonna kill all of you. And if you watch Aliens, you'll see some, what happens when you just shoot an alien.
I imagine it melts the thing that they're standing on.
It, does some pretty wacky stuff.
Okay. Oh, man. I know you said that there's, like, some fan theories that you wanted to discuss. Here's something that I might have picked up on. So it's like you said, it's a capitalistic analysis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that one scientist, the science officer, the one played by Ian Holm, he was an android the whole time, but no one knew.
Yes.
And the fact that like Ridley Scott also directed Blade Runner, I think there's the same company or like in the same world where the androids exist in the same world as Alien.
So I don't know if it's the same world per se. It's definitely some of the same thematic material though. Like, it does not surprise me that Ridley Scott directed Blade Runner pretty much right after this, because it's like, well, you know, he had experience working with androids. But no, I guess, like, so, like, there's a lot of ways to read Alien. One of the ones that a lot of people, and myself, latch on is it's about capitalism.
Right.
In the sense that these people are working class. Even before the alien shows up, their conversations are about pay and how,
right, definitely.
I believe it's Parker and Brett. Is it Parker? Yeah, Parker and Brett are like the engineers, and they don't get paid as much as like the regular crew, and like that's some of the conversations they have, like when you're just setting up characters, setting up stakes, sort of thing. And then obviously, like, so it's like a working class ship. They are sent here to this unknown planet by basically not their will, and they get attacked and murdered, all for like this company to be able to like take this weapon and profit off of it somehow.
Right.
And it's basically an extended metaphor of how capitalism uses the working class in order to like expand their goals, and how the rich and powerful constantly benefit from the blood of the poor. And this is definitely made very explicit in Aliens.
Okay.
Like that metaphor continues to go on.
I can kind of see that as well, because like they're very human.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Like they built them up as people who have concerns. Like they have a job to do. Yes, it's awesome to be in space, but essentially it's just a job, and they want to go home. But they want to make sure that they're paid equally, or like their fair share of the work they contributed to the job. So yeah, in that sense, it's very human right there. Except for Ian Holm's character, who from the beginning I can kind of see like the subtle cues. Like this man does not care for these people at all. Like he's the one in particular was when that one dude was choking. I forgot he's the chest burster guy.
When Kane is choking.
Yeah, when he's choking, he's like, oh, this is serious. Like, no, what? Do you not see? Like, everyone else is concerned, and he's the last one to be concerned. He's like looking at like, oh, this is serious. Okay. Once it turns out he's actually an android, I'm like, this makes so much more sense, because he did not have any regard for them at all.
Yeah, he plays it so well, and like his little monologue after he gets like decapitated, kind of, is like so good and so creepy. It also like. That's another, like, theme of it. Like, who is the real alien here? Is it, like, this monster that they've let on board? Or is it, like, this android that was created by man and whose only real goal is to kind of make money for, like, the company? Like, who is really, like, more detrimental to the crew's success? You could make the argument that Ash as the android is way, way, like, scarier. Because he's controlled by humans, and like that, he has like motivation. At least the alien is just a monster. Like, it's just an animal.
Right. The alien is just like primal, essentially.
Yes.
It has no technology. And like the other alien that they saw that was dead, I think you know what I'm talking about. It was in that chair. I think that's the one they're most interested in. The company was.
Oh, no.
No?
No. You need to watch Aliens. You really need to watch Aliens.
Because I saw Prometheus, and like that, I think that was the alien they had in Prometheus.
Yes, that is the alien from Prometheus. But they wanted a xenomorph.
Man, fuck that company, man.
It's like, how dare you, Space Amazon?
Mr. What's his name? Elon Bezos.
Elon Bezos. So, like, if you really want to hear, like, an out-there fan theory, tell me if you picked up on this. So, Alien, the movie Alien, is about rape.
Yeah, picked up on it.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I tell people that sometimes, and they're like, you're kidding. But it's specifically about, like...
Male rape.
Male rape. So, obviously, the the face hugger, it's very like vaginal imagery. Like it's a big hole in the middle, and then like, you know, like hands coming out of it almost, and it like attaches it to a male. It impregnates him with the world's worst embryo. And then basically what happens is he gives birth, and it is like this phallic like thing. It's like this white phallic thing that's like dripping ooze from its mouth, and that's what bursts out of his chest. And then obviously when you get to the actual like, so if the face hugger is a vagina, then the chest burster is like phallic. Then you get the xenomorph itself, which is just a big long penis with a smaller penis that comes out of its mouth to like stab you, to like penetrate your skin. Like, it's all about the fact that all of this comes from eggs as well. Like, that's where the xenomorph comes from. So it's basically all about like male rape, as well as just like, you know, childbirth is terrifying.
Yeah.
It's like it's a very, very like intrinsic way of looking at that.
That's also the part that concerned me as well, because like I kind of like cared about Kane. That's his name, Kane.
Yeah.
Not that I cared about him, but like I felt very sorry for him. Like I felt like horrified for him, essentially, because like that's like a very violent way to die, and a very violent thing. Like he was raped, essentially, and he gave birth to like an alien. And
they intentionally made a man be the one to, because the initial plan, and this isn't just like a fan theory, like Dan O'Bannon, the screenwriter, was like, no, I want the audience to be attacked sexually. Like, that's what he said. The people who made Alien were fucked up, is what I'm trying to say. So like, they were like, how does the alien get on the ship? And someone was like, I don't know, it fucks one of them. And then that is how they were like, oh, let's think of the face hugger. And then they were like, well, we can't have a woman be face hugged because that just seems kind of in bad taste. Like it's like a form of rape, and then we're just gonna rape one of our two female characters. So they did it to the male character, and it actually works so much better that way, because it completely leaves all the males in the audience like, what the hell's going on, guys?
Yeah.
I have no idea what's gonna come next.
Because now the men are terrified.
Oh, yeah, because pregnancy sucks.
Yeah.
And, like, you've seen Prometheus, like,
Parts of it.
Yeah. I don't remember almost anything from Prometheus. The one scene I remember is, if I remember correctly, she like aborts her chest burster, doesn't she?
I probably did not pick up on that. I missed that part.
Because the girl gets an alien in her, doesn't she? And then she gets in like the like this machine, and it like cuts the alien out of her. She aborts her fetus. She aborts the alien out of her. So yeah, like the whole like sexual metaphor and allegory of it is like a huge part of the franchise. Even like the newer ones play around with the ideas of that. My question to you, do you think Alien is a particularly feminist film?
I can see how it is. I don't know. Because a woman, like, essentially, like, is the only one who's not in control, but she's the only smart one who knew what to do. She knew what needed to be done, and then she's the only survivor. I don't know. That's my answer. I don't know.
Yeah. To this day, there's like academic film debate over, is Alien feminist or not? I personally don't know. I think Ripley is awesome. Mm-hmm. I think everyone agrees Ripley is awesome, and everyone loves her. And she's one of the most iconic film for horror movie characters for a reason, or even sci-fi movie characters. It's interesting that she is a woman, but she has less feminine traits than Lambert, the other woman on board. Like, she is a lot, like, or like, less traditionally feminine traits, because she's a lot less, like, she's not crying all the time. Like, she's, like, ready to fight this thing if need be, but she's still, like, she's also, like, looks a lot more androgynous than Lambert does in the film, and I think that, like, she was actually written as a male character. Ripley was supposed to be a dude. But then Sigourney Weaver, I want to say, auditioned, or, like, late in the writing process, or during the casting process. I don't know for sure. Eventually, they decided it should be a woman. And then that's when the character of Ripley, especially with Sigourney Weaver's performance, was born.
I will say that this movie did get a crossover with Alien versus Predator.
Yes, that does exist.
I don't know how that happened. I haven't seen it. I tell you, I haven't seen it. I think people didn't like it or something, but...
So, do you want to know how it happened?
I guess the Predator wanted to hunt something that was very advanced or like very... Not advanced, but like very dangerous.
So, what happened is in Predator 2... The Predator movies are also a pretty good watch. I like Alien 1,000 times more, but Predator's solid. In Predator 2, you get to see into it like a Predator layer, and as a fun little Easter egg, they put an alien xenomorph head in his layer. And then all the fanboys of the 1990s were like, oh my god, imagine there was like an Alien versus Predator movie. And then it took like a decade for the studios to finally work it out. But... eventually, you get two Alien vs. Predator movies. Neither are very good. In fact, they're both quite bad and pretty stupid. Except the part where the alien fights the Predator. Those parts are great. But yeah, that's how it happened. Now, do you feel you should have seen Alien sooner?
I don't know. With most of the movies I've seen for like season 1 and this season as well, the majority is like, oh, I think this is the perfect time for me to watch it. And there are like a very few ones where like, oh, I should have seen this sooner. This one, I don't know what to say. It definitely was never really in my radar until like film classes, essentially, if you know what I mean, like a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't very particularly into horror movies back then, if that makes sense.
Oh.
I was a scaredy cat. Kind of am today, but I can like, no, this is fake. Stop. Yeah, this is the only one I can say, I don't know. I don't regret watching it, if that makes sense. I'm not trying to say, like, this is a bad film, I didn't like it. No, I very much enjoyed this. I thought it was really good. I thought it was a solid film. I don't know if I should have seen this movie sooner.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge horror movie guy. I think horror is the genre I'm most familiar with, actually. So, I love Alien. I didn't like it the first time I watched it, though.
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh, I've watched it 4 times now that I think about it now.
Oh, look at you.
Because I watched it when I was like 12, and I was like, it's fine, I guess. Yeah. It's not scary. Now I'm like, oh my god, this is terrifying.
Yeah, no one can hear you scream in space.
So good.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts on it? Any other bits you would like to talk about?
It felt so much more realistic about the quarantine thing, the way he ignored it. That was like the most human thing Ash could have done, if you think about it.
He's like, no, bring him in. We need to save him.
Back before 2020, people would have been like, you stupid person. Like, no one would actually do that in real life. Like, the reason he did it is because he's an android. And now I was like, no, there's plenty of people who would ignore that request. The quarantine request.
I love how, like, they kind of frame Ripley as the bad guy in that scene. Because she's like, hey, like... we shouldn't be letting this guy back on. It's like, Ripley, he's dying. Like, procedure goes out the window. And then, they all go out the window. Because of that. If you had just listened to Ripley when she was like, this isn't procedure.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for listening. We've reached the end of our discussion. Zackiel, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this.
All right, I'm glad you had fun. I had fun too. But before we leave, I want to ask, were the movies a hit or miss of you? So for both Citizen Kane and Alien, were they hit or miss?
Oh, both hits. They're both hits, definitely.
Same here. They're both hits for me as well. And I'm very confident in that decision as well. All right. So where can our listeners find you on social media?
Yeah, of course. You can follow me on Instagram at Zackiel_Marsh. That's mostly just my personal account. But every year I do post critical write-ups of my favorite movies, albums, and TV shows of the year. I make a top 10 list, do some graphic design work, little blurbs for each one. It's really fun.
They look really nice. I've seen them. They look really nice.
Thank you. Then, if you also want, you can follow me on TikTok under, I believe I'm under Z Reviews right now. Though that name's subject to change. But Z Reviews at the moment, or Zackiel M. And basically, I write pop culture reviews, movie reviews, things like that. I have a really funny one that I probably won't talk about right now because it's not film related in the slightest. But I would really appreciate any love over there.
Didn't you do one about the Travis Scott burger?
That was just an Instagram story. I post a lot of funny Instagram stories that I should make into TikToks, but I don't.
I think that deserves to be on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but I think that would be very popular on TikTok.
I have my favorite one on my TikTok is I did a song review of the new Ariana Grande song, Positions, and I talk about how it's secretly a metaphor for pegging. And you wouldn't think it works, but trust me when I say it works.
So that's the episode, folks. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, cross off a new film from your list. Thank you for listening to the Hit List Podcast. If you like this episode, please consider giving us 5 stars and leaving a review. It really does help. You can also follow us on Facebook at The Hit List Podcast and Instagram at _hitlist_podcast.